skeptical professor, which is a great guy, and he made a point about, idolizing someone like Richard and following him because then it becomes a cult. And he's worried about things becoming a cult, and he said, hey, it's, a guild, meaning a group that comes together and is not a cult. So unless you spent a lot of time, I think there's three different things that have happened with Richard and this. I really see it as a liberty movement, because Richard is talking about the truth and how everything's being locked down and we're losing our liberty and we've got to fight for it, and how we're being taken advantage of. So I see there's basically 3 points. Richard brought out the truth over a long period of time, and then he validated it. He said, look, I'm working on Hex. This is how it's going to work. This is going to help us. This is going to be good for everyone. And then Hex came out, and it proved itself. And then Pulsechain came out, and it proved everything that he was saying was true. He's not the most perfect person. And then the third thing that happened was functionality and no censorship. We have Pulsechain and Hex, because it's a smart contract that has no admin key. So those 3 things. He brought out truth, it was validated, and then there's functionality and no censorship. And so all the building blocks are here. And so and this is a really good news for PDI. So you have all these people that really know Richard and can really trust him and can really jump into PDI and Pulse and buy more Pulsechain and buy more Hex and Pulsex. But what will happen is that there's a lot of people that will get into PDI. It'll go up to $1, and then when it goes up to $1, it's not going up any further. So what are you going to do with you're going to look for something else that's going up at the time. And by the time PDI gets up to $1 and all these liquidity pools and Atropa pushing things all around, that means Hex and Pulsechain and Pulsex are going to be going up. So everyone's going to take their money from PDI and jump into Hex and Pulsechain. So it's just a wonderful circle of those that, heard the truth from Richard, and he explained everything about DAI before. So, it's really a wonderful thing that as soon as the green candles come, everyone else will just jump in not knowing all this background. But the people that got the truth from Richard and saw that it was validated, everything that he said, and now the functionality's there, is going to benefit from it.
100%, Gabriel. Definitely agree with everything you said there.
People are not realizing the great enemies we have. It's basically the fiat banking system and their old world systems. Now, we don't want to destroy the old world system. We just want them to compete with us so that they improve their offerings. We are fighting for liberty, and it's not going to be an easy journey. We're going to have these dips. It's going to go back up and dips, but it's going to be this fight. That's why it has to be a long process going up gradually, so that the bankers don't get too flustered by it, so that we are competing at a slow pace so that it pulls people on, and before you know it, you're using it. It's the same thing that happened with the Bitcoin. Everyone hated it. They didn't want it, the traditional finance, and they came against it, and then Ethereum came out, and they came against Ethereum, and then before you know it, now BRICS countries, Britain, Russia, India, China, South America, they are wanting to offer or buy oil with gold, rubles, or Bitcoin. Anyway, this is a fight. It's going to be difficult, and they're trying to hit Richard. But the beautiful thing is Richard can attack the SEC because he's not in the country, and he can also at the same time build and keep Pulsechain growing at the same time. So I'm very bullish about things, but I also realize that there's real danger, and it's going to be an up and down battle as we go through this.
Definitely going to be a bit of an up and down battle for sure. Yeah, this is not going to be easy if anybody thinks it is. There's going to be highs and lows, and we just got to hold to our convictions and keep our eyes open for, any red flags along the way, things like that.
The biggest thing that they have trust in is a smart contract that has no admin key like Hex, and they'll put money in Hex. So the Hex price will go up. And as long as because if everything's going up in the bull market and these bots are distributing liquidity and helping everything on Pulsechain will go up. It'll basically, the liquidity bonding will raise everything up. And that's what's going on right now. This is an experiment, and this is a effort that's never been done before. We have a pulse chain with no censorship, and all these fantastic foundations, all these validators, so a lot of great foundations to make this work. But right now we're in a discovery phase, and we have the backing of these liquidity bots, and that's the basics of where we're at right now.
Who would be audacious enough to actually buy those things themselves, to buy a stable coin on PEC?
Here's the magic. Here's the magic. Unisocks. You know what unisocks are?
Yeah.
Is a joke. Well, the audience doesn't, so tell them. Unless you want to tell them. I'll tell them.
No, feel free.
Okay. So the founders of Uniswap decided as a joke to launch a market selling socks that had Uniswap written on them. And they had like 100 pairs or something. And then those were priced in Ethereum. And so guess what happens? Because there's an order book of liquidity on both sides. One side is socks that you can redeem for actual physical socks. And the other side is Ethereum. As the price of Ethereum goes up, because they're interchangeable, so too does the value of socks. And so because of Ethereum price appreciation, the value of a sock, 2 socks, a pair of socks, was like $40,000. That same stupid crap is very likely to happen on these pulse pairs. When one thing goes up, the thing that's tied to it goes up. And so even if you didn't want to, quote, play the game's going to get played. I'll tell you another thing. That bot that's going to go and harvest PRC20s to even out the balance with the more common pulse, it's going to take that liquidity and either put it back where it harvested it or put it into another Uniswap fork. And then the game can't, like the people that used to have that liquidity and would have been able to pull it and stop the game from being played, they're no longer able to stop the game from being played. So if you're like a Link Marine and you're like, probably a lot of them are going to love Pulse.
Pretty cool stuff.
And so that's the difference here. This is a organized, broad effort that is going to benefit Pulse, Pulsex, and every coin that it's connected to. So it is creating these bonded pairs with DAI. And as DAI goes up, it's going to improve these other coins. And as these other coins go up, it's going to improve DAI. So it's like this mutual relationship of supporting each other. But that also means that when something goes down, it'll pull the other ones down. So there is some risk here.
Who controls the bots?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out right now. It's basically smart contracts that have already been made that are decentralized, and they're doing their work without any human intervention. So they're basically trying to maintain. So algorithmically, they've said, okay, we're going to support DAI, and we're going to support these coins, and we're going to do it by bonding 2 tokens together. And this is what Richard was just talking about. As they're bonded together, it's going to support each other. And so this bot says, oh, I got to lift it up a little bit. Oh, it's going down. I got to pick it up, or it's going up too high too quickly. So it tries to balance things out. Just think of it as a automatic market maker that is doing things to benefit the system.
Warren Buffett said, buy when there's blood in the streets. If you're in this ecosystem, you buy when Richard Hart's blood is in the streets. You just chomp it up. You know what I mean? It can't go wrong, I don't believe. It's like Christmas time prices. I try to look at it a different way. Even though the money I've put in is down, I'm just like, oh man, I can get it here. So that's my perspective. I think more people should try to look at it that way if you believe in what you're buying in.
I agree.
Accumulation time. That's what it is. I remember when Hex was going down and people were scared to buy, man. Ethereum was like $150 back then, man. So you got to do what the opposite of what the market is doing.
I mean, amazing opportunity. Once we start printing dollars, rates go down, which will happen, then we take off.
But it's not the right thing to focus on. Like, price performance matters more. Price performance matters infinitely more than blockchain throughput, because you have a bunch of empty blockchains right now. Who cares? You want to go do cheap transactions? You can go do them on every blockchain, because every blockchain is empty except 2. There's only 2 blockchains that are filled up. Maybe BSC is filling up actually. Maybe Matic's filling up actually. So maybe there's 4 full blockchains now. But that's it. Every other blockchain is totally empty. So price performance matters more than throughput.
Yeah, because everyone's trying to reinvent the wheel. And so
we're not. We're giving you an extra wheel.
I know. That's what I'm saying. But
it's smart.
It's smart. Yeah, it's very smart. I've worked with other layer 1s and another one right now, a parallel chain. And,
but every time you do that crap, you're gonna lose so much money finding out where the bugs are, man. Hey, it's new code. great. Then you got new bugs.
Not only that,
So I've got two little tricks up my sleeve here. One is the people that had liquidity are not going to be able to pull it to stop the game from being played, because when this network launches, they're going to be missing some of it because it's going to be replaced with Pulse. So they're going to get more Pulse, and they're going to get less of their PRC20, and that PRC20 harvest is going into an AMM. So no one can stop the game from being played except whoever has those LP keys. They could, but the old LPs can't. And then the other trick is I can help reduce Ethereum's load, or I can fuck Ethereum. But if I want to screw Ethereum, I open up wideband, 1 pair per pair, and go check out the O-notational scaling on trying to ARB 10,000 new coins and 10,000 new pairs. Go figure out what that does and whose network fills up first. So if people don't want to be friendly, then I can wideband the ARB, and basically the ETH network will fill up and we won't, and then they'll be harmed, probably be benefited. Now, I don't want to do that. I want to do it the friendly way, and it also adds more value to Pulse if it's bridge, you know?
That was fascinating.
But if I get fucked with, then I will do it the harder way. Their network will be harmed. So I have interesting things I can do.
Shoot, at this point, I'm ready for him to do it the hard way.
I should know this, and I should have asked this back in the testnet days, but when you go to the burn tab on Pulsex, and like it's got LPs to burn with like, and it gives you the bounty and stuff. Like if you select one, like let's say Hedron and Rat Pulse, like what happens when you click burn? Like what do you get for doing this?
So right now, you get that Pulsex. It tells you your bounty. That's the bounty you receive for making this process happen. And if you're fast enough, then you get the bounty. If you're not fast enough, you don't get the bounty, but you just spent some gas.
Okay. So when it says burning, so it would only be like pulse gas. Like I wouldn't lose anything from my Pulsex balance.
No. Yeah, just your pulse balance. Like you're just submitting a transaction.
Yeah.
So you're trying to get in line to get that bounty. But then right now there's like a lot of people always watching it. There's bots watching it as well.
Yeah.
So no one's faster than a bot, but it's doing its job. It's burning. As long as it presses that button, someone has that button and actually receiving that Pulsex. I don't know what they're doing with the Pulsex, but it's burning.
Is there any reason not to do it like on a daily basis?
It might not be worth the gas.
Okay.
Sometimes the Pulsex bounty is not as much as you think.
Okay.
Like you're receiving like 10 or 20K. You're
Right.
receiving like 1,000 or 100 or 200.
Oh, I'm seeing that now. Oh yeah, it tells you how many pennies it's worth. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's not worth the gas. Okay. But
But imagine for those that actually was like, hey, I used to burn Pulsex and get Pulsex, 100 Pulsex or 1,000 Pulsex, and now it's worth this much, and just I don't know. It's a way to look at it.
Yeah. Good point.
Do you think stablecoins on Pulse will eventually peg the dollar similar to USDT on TRX as USDT on ETH? I mean, I think it would be smart of the stablecoin providers to harness all of the new users on the awesome platform. So step 1, exist. Step 2, use. Step 3, stablecoins launch natively on it.
Did he just say stablecoins launch natively on it?
Yep.
Stablecoins launch natively on it.
Like, imagine the next time he does, or if he ever does, what happens to Pulsechain? Like, what's gonna
Dude,
what is gonna go?
Everything will go crazy if Richard streams.